So you are 100% correct. Both Enel and Crocodile were absolutely stronger than Luffy. In fact, Enel and Crocodile are two of the strongest antagonists that the Straw Hats faced pre-time skip. I'm sure to a lot of people that sounds strange because they were fairly early on villains in the grand scheme of the story, so surely they can't be stronger than villains that came later on, right? Well, both Enel and Crocodile only lost to Luffy because they got extremely unlucky. It's the easiest to tell this with Enel. Obviously, Luffy had an extreme type advantage over Enel. Not only was Luffy able to hit him, something that no one else had ever done in his entire life, he wasn't able to hit Luffy. None of his electricity-based attacks did anything to Luffy, so he was just left trying to hit him with his spear. And while technically speaking he could have still beat Luffy like this, he was so thrown off his game by the fact that he couldn't use most of his powers that he stopped using his mantra mid-fight. He was so thrown off his game, he stopped using one of his strongest abilities cause he was just so annoyed by this dumb rubber child. And then if we go on over to Crocodile, Crocodile's bad luck was a lot more subtle than Enel's was. Crocodile was drastically stronger than Luffy, and Luffy, at the time, didn't have Haki. But the interesting thing is, even if Luffy had Haki, he still would have lost those first two fights. In his first fight, Luffy didn't stand a chance. He was taken out immediately and thrown into a hole. But in his second fight, he had water, Crocodile's explicit weakness, and he still lost because just being able to hit Crocodile wasn't enough to turn the tide in his favor. It wasn't until Luffy had Crocodile underground that he was finally able to beat him. Because Crocodile is a long-range to mid-range fighter, and Luffy is a very close-up fighter. So even if Luffy had Haki in the first two fights, Crocodile still would have beat him because he would have just kept his distance the exact same way we see him do in the second fight. It's not until Luffy has him underground and he can't keep his distance that Luffy finally wins. Luffy beat Enel because of a combination of an extreme type disadvantage and Enel's lack of experience fighting people who could hurt him. And Luffy beat Crocodile because of a combination of learning his weakness to water and Crocodile's inability to keep his distance in their final fight. As I said at the beginning, Crocodile and Enel were extremely strong, even compared to later antagonists. They just got super unlucky.